Okay, I had to document this one. Cunk on Earth, and in fact the rest of the Cunk series, is by far the funniest fucking thing I've watched on television in years. A few months back, I was scrolling through BBC iPlayer and I needed something to give me a bit of a giggle. Soon as Diane Morgan's face popped up, I knew I'd be onto a winner, because if you've ever seen Motherland, she is beyond brilliant in that. And this is an award winner, basically. It's also produced by Charlie Brooker, the genius behind Black Mirror. So again, it just added to the appeal of it. The first episode opens with this whole aerial view, I think, or one of them. It pans across a cliff top that Philomena Cunk stood on top of. And she looks up at the camera and she goes, "Throughout this program, I'll be starting my sentences in one place." Cut, edit, jump to another part of the land, and finishing them in another. It's classic documentary that rips the shit out of things that you've seen before, especially when presenters open the program like that. And yeah, I thought, yes, I'm going to continue watching this, see how it goes. It's a mockumentary like no other. As Philomena goes from place to place, she sort of lectures the viewer on various historical events, people, places and figures, but she literally hasn't got a fucking clue what she's talking about. It is brilliant. Everything she tells you about anything is so factually incorrect that the absurdity of it all just keeps snowballing. It just keeps it gets funnier and funnier as it goes along. She gets dates wrong, names of royal figures or famous writers mixed up. She refers to epic, I'm talking epic, historical events as, oh, poor things, just a brief mishap. And she also gives some opinions on direct views and on things using sort of, colourful language. It makes quite a good history test, actually, that I found that as I was watching it, I was like, hang on a minute, did that happen? No, hang on, that's not that person, that kind of thing, because of how just ridiculous it is. But the first part of it that I want to mention are the guest speakers. Bloody good sports, basically. Philomena sits down with a variety of scholars and historians, music professors. There's archaeologists in there, in very brief, bite-sized interviews. And they break each episode up nicely as well, actually, as well as throwing in more hilarity. I mean, just as I'd been roaring and when I thought my cheeks couldn't get any wider or hotter, this little thing's chucked in that's kind of like gives it some mild relief. But it's just as funny. It's brilliant. My God, each person, I mean, they're an actual member of an educational or historical establishment based in London or Oxford or down in the West Country. They actually exist. And that's why it's so funny, because their reactions to what Philomena's saying in front of them is brilliant. At points, I almost couldn't look, because when she asks them the most ludicrous questions, or she drops a bombshell, I almost had my hands over my eyes. It was that funny. I mean, the first to second episode, I was fascinated as to whether the interviews were actually legit. Clearly the people were briefed, but they're beyond bemused facial expressions are comic gold. They're absolute genius. They're just sort of, most of them just sit there and they have like these vacant stares and sort of, hesitant looks, as Diane's character just keeps on talking about this historical event with such, she hasn't got any care for it or any sort of, she's as open as possible, basically. Nothing is kept inside. So yeah, it's brilliant how a few of the interviewees bring them round to Philomena's level. One of them says something like, "Oh, this lady, she stuck her bottom out of her carriage window, and the peasants were kissing it." And Philomena sits there and she's like, "But do you think perhaps if she spread her cheeks wide enough, they'd get more of a mouthpiece?" And it was just brilliant the way that the interviewees bring them round to her level, but she still manages to bring them down with her look and the things that she says. She's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, these people actually exist, and I'm assuming, as I say, they were briefed. They can't have been set up, surely. They can't have been. Diane's performance goes purely, it rolls on less is more. I think what makes it so funny is how Diane isn't being. She's just she sits there and she's very laid back. She's got her legs crossed and she's actually deadly serious. She's not jumping around like some irritating stand-up or screaming or anything. She's not overly animated. She's just calm and collected, and yeah, sits on a chair mostly, just interviewing these people who are absolutely gobsmacked by what she's saying. But that's another thing. I can't for the life of me work out if how they actually take her, because they're just sort of staring like vacantly. She says to one woman who's a music professor, "Beethoven was quite good, wasn't he?" And the woman's like, "Yes, yeah, he was. One of the most famous music composers in history." It's excellent. I mean, a few examples here are, she says to a guy, "Which one was more culturally significant, the Renaissance or Single Ladies by Beyonce?" And the man he's clearly like this really old historian, good at his stuff, who's never heard of Beyonce before, and whose idea of a night out is probably like sitting in his library with a glass of whiskey, And she comes out with something like that. She says to someone else, "Did a philosopher ever think of an idea so big it split their head open?" And the guy responds, "Not that I'm aware of." And he's so serious. The whole thing is so deadpan, and it's dripping with sarcasm. If you're into things like that, you're gonna fucking love it. There's another one where she's like, "The human brain is full of pipes. Philosophers have these thoughts that they then try and push through these pipes. Is it best to break up these thoughts into, the size of peas and try and push them through quickly?" It's just absurd. What else is it? She says, was it? Yeah, she says, how did the Egyptians build the pyramids? Did they start at the top or and work down, or start on the bottom and work up? Oh my god! Oh my god! Honestly, I've never laughed so much. Diane Morgan is absolutely just she's beyond comic gold. If she hasn't won an award for this, I'd be very, very surprised. She refers to the Soviet Union as the Soviet Onion, the Cube and Missile Crisis. She asks if Beethoven was good at music. Things like that. It's just, oh god, it's hysterical. Anyway, Cunk on Earth, Cunk on Britain, Cunk on Shakespeare, and Cunk and Other Humans. I watched them all. I had to. I binged them. I fucking devoured them. And I'm so glad I did. It gave me like aches. I was aching deep down. And my cheeks were on fire. And my funny bone was fucking tickled. Yeah. I haven't got much more to say here because I can't. Have a look on BBC iPlayer and give Cunk a go, because whoever wrote this, probably Charlie Brooker, was just, they've crossed a boundary that I never knew could be crossed. It is so hilarious. It had me in stitches, and it was a good history test, like I said. That's it. I just wanted to note this one. So, yep, thanks for watching. Oh, God, this is brilliant.